or the engineering side of me
Yeah.
battles with the marketeer side of me. So roughly every 6 months I delete all my cookies and data. Yeah, I know as a marketeer that's the interesting data that the customer or that I'm wanting to pull from.
Yeah, the marketeer wants
The marketeer wants that data, but then I'm suddenly turning around and deleting it. But that's because I'm an engineer. I know engineers that also do stuff like that. We are very protective of we understand the value.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give you my data for free.
You are connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast.
Hi, I'm Adam Butler, and this is Evolving Digital. We're here to pull back the curtains and share the secrets of digital giants and disruptors. We'll be bringing you high-quality, in-depth interviews, and all we ask of you is that you hit that subscribe button so we can keep doing this. Now let's jump into it.
So, Robert, 30 years in marketing communications.
30 years. God, where did
being
that
a
time go?
Scotsman, moving from Scotland to Belgium, establishing your first business there, and focusing on high-tech manufacturing, all these very nifty industries. You're an engineer by trade, or
Training.
Let's not call it. Let's call it training. So how is that? How did that happen? I mean, what made you choose this line of work as an engineer?
It was one of those ones where you sort of fall into something. There was never a plan to do this. I qualified just at the start of the 90s. The semiconductor industry in Scotland at the time was in one of its usual 7 years. So the semiconductor industry is in sort of roughly a 7-year cycle.
Right.
And it was at the bottom of its 7-year cycle. So I'd actually had a job offer from one of the Japanese manufacturers who had a fab in Scotland. But they said it won't happen for another 2 years. So you sort of go, well, what do I do with the next 2 years?
Right.
Yeah. So the choice was basically go down to England, get a job in England, or go to the continent. And yeah, continent seemed so much more interesting a place to go. Not saying anything about the English, but
Get off the island.
run away. And so I first came over and I had a sort of internship job with MasterCard, Eurocard at the time. And you're sort of then going, okay, what do I do next? And then one of our friends had sort of just set up his own agency.
Right.
In Antwerp, and he was looking for someone who had a tech background who could then sort of understand what engineers talk about. Because one of the challenges for me, I see it all the time, is most people in marketing are marketeers.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with being a marketeer.
Thank you.
Yeah. But marketeer and engineers don't speak the same language. So having someone that can actually speak engineering and translate that into marketeer language, you sort of going, you get a foot in each sort of territory. So he sort of said, well, do you want a job? And I went, oh, this could be interesting. Fast forward 30 years and you go, where did the time go?
What happened? Yeah.
But it was very much that sort of, having graduated with a bunch of guys who actually did go into the industry, designed for the industry to be a semiconductor process engineer. And I just didn't want to wear a blue suit for the rest of my life. So you suddenly go, okay, well, what else is there? But I've got all this knowledge, I've got all this understanding. I'm still a scientist / engineer at heart. What do I do with that? Well, okay, then, why not try this sort of marketeer, writer thought process?
Yeah, because you're not a copywriter, right?
No, I turn around and I say, never say I'm a copywriter. Copywriters are somebody that generates random copy for basically zero euros an hour.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's also, that's that. I have an engineering background. I have an engineering mindset.
Yeah.
Or a scientific mindset. I like opening the box and seeing what's inside the box.
Yeah. You want to know how it works.
I want to know how it works. You know, otherwise you're just sort of, oh, okay, yes, here's a new product. Oh, well, yeah, I can write 1,000 words on here's a new product. But if you don't understand it, if you don't know what it does, then yeah, you're just sort of making stuff up.
So if you 30 years back, was it a niche? I mean, right now everybody's talking B2B, everybody's in tech, everybody, but I can imagine back in the days it was a sort of a really small segment for a marketing communication professional to explore.
So one of the things that you if I sort of go, rewind back to the 90s, you had basically Saatchi doing stuff with Thatcher's government in the UK.
Yeah.
And that's what marketing was more.
Advertising,
PR, and especially, with tech and B2B, it's a niche in itself. Yeah. It's a much bigger niche now, but, at the time it was definitely a niche in itself. Yeah. And certainly, English language speaking. So you're dealing mainly with multinationals. You're dealing mainly with customers who are looking at either a broad European or an international market space, because English then is the first language. So you're not dealing with a local tech company who's dealing only in Dutch or who's dealing in French. Yeah. So it's a niche of a niche of a niche. So yes, everybody thinks marketing and big area, and then you sort of narrow it down to, okay, well, this is industrial and high tech. Yeah. Because I'm an engineer, that's my space. And then I'm English language, and then I'm Scottish, so when I speak, most people don't understand me anyway.
So you said, the bigger companies, multinationals, so you worked for ASML, for NXP, Nexperia.
But back then it was Philips.
Yeah, everything. Of course,
everything in Eindhoven was Philips. Yeah. Even ASML at that time had only really just stepped out on its own. Yeah. They were cowboys back in the day, which was great. But very much they were the new kids on the block.
Yeah.
So everything was very much Philips. You then look to where we are now, and Philips is a medical company.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Signify is a lighting company.
Signify is a lighting company, which is the original.
Yeah. NXP
is the NXP/Nexperia are the semiconductor companies. ASML was part of, so it's still a very much a Philips community in many respects. But you had that core of high tech and industrial to support those industries. Mechatronics came about because stuff ASML was basically trying to do. And what you have then is you have a whole bunch of engineers doing really cool engineering stuff. And as we know with most engineers, documentation comes last.
Yeah.
So you're coming in as...
And then it's only the tech doc, right?
And then that's the real...
There's no marketing fluff in there.
No. Have to be careful, marketing fluff, yeah. But you're very much looking at it as, how do you then sort of get some of this fantastic stuff that's been developed onto the world stage? You've got a limited target audience. You're not trying to sell this. It's not mass market communications. We can't just sort of stick a flyer through 1 million people's doors. No. You've got a very niche audience that you're speaking to.
Yeah. Is that dangerous though? Thinking, just being... Because I always have this issue, like, because I like something or I don't, and I might be the target audience, but comparing myself to the target audience, and then does that influence your messaging or your copy, or is that something you keep in mind?
It's something I keep in mind, but I mean, one of the things I always sort of, going back to what you said earlier about marketing fluff.
Yeah.
A lot of the content that I see sometimes, you're looking at it going, is that really what you want to be saying?
Yeah.
So you're looking to try and get something that attracts the engineer.
Yeah.
So it has to be solid content. But of course, you're trying to sort of also sell it at the same time. So you have to put that sort of marketing spin on it.
Do you think it's different now? I mean, I think marketing is more of an accepted kind of department within high tech companies, right? We're still not in the boardroom, but it's not just marketing fluff. There is value there. How was that compared to 30 years ago? Is that?
Oh, I mean,
has that evolved, or-
30 years ago, I mean, most marketing departments were production teams.
Yeah.
You know, and again, a lot of that came back down to the fact that, as I said, you know, you were still doing typesetting, you were still doing print proofs. It has improved, I would sort of say, over the last 30 years. Has it got the recognition that it deserves? Probably not. You know, if you look at it from that marketing communication perspective, it's still very much seen as a cost center.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not a profit center. So, you know, as soon as you have that, it's a cost center. You know, and you're in a cyclical business. You know, when the downturns come,
Yeah.
first place budgets
Marketing's
go marketing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a priority budget.
Right. How can they make that transition from, you know, maybe even going from a cost center to, you know, a profit center, or is there, where should they start? I mean, if it's even possible, but
Well, I think you know, especially what we've seen with the digital transformation. I remember, you know, working on an HR program, and it was the first time they were doing digital ads,
right, yeah,
and they turned around and said, "Okay, you've
to
got
get jobs
to get
filled.
to
Yeah,
get CVs in and sort of see get employees in and stuff like that." And they turned around and sort of said, "Okay, you know, you've got this amount of budget, you know, whatever it was, 20K or something like that at the time."
Yeah.
And they turned around and went, "Okay, we'll do these digital ads, and then we've got all this data that we can sort of see. You know, how many clicks did you get? How many CVs did you get? You know, and suddenly you're defending 20K of budget,
Yeah.
and sort of saying, well, yeah, we got these many CVs in, and we got these many potential recruits
Yeah.
from those CVs. And then you're looking at the traditional media spend for HR and going, yeah, well, where are the question marks there?
Right.
You know,
So because-
nobody was questioning it because it was just, oh, well, we'll have to spend this amount on HR ads.
Yeah. But isn't that because it wasn't traceable?
Wasn't traceable. Nobody had an idea. Nobody
you
was
would know,
managing
you go to
it.
a publisher and say, okay, I need to put this ad in the paper, and they will say, you know, okay, this is going to cost you like 10K, but that's about it. You had no idea what the actual
You knew what your reach was, but you didn't know what the
reach,
response
but
was.
You didn't. I mean, yeah, somebody picked up the paper. It didn't mean they would see your ad, right? So, and now with everything being digital, you can. So
Now with digital, you have that content available, so
Yeah.
you can look into the data, you can dig into the data, you can understand the data. I mean, data is so important when it comes to marketing
Yeah.
and communications these days. You know, and you need to own your own data. If you don't own your own data, then game over. you know.
I agree. But how does that relate to the value? Because we're talking about. I'm a marketing manager, and I'm in this high tech environment, and you know I have to basically struggle for every marketing euro I want to spend. So how do I?
But
Of course, I
if
understand.
you know,
You want to build. It's also hard to tell that organization, you know, we're going to build this customer profile because we can, you know, we can have a better understanding of how the market operates, or how our products will relate to these to this target audience. I mean, that's already a hard sell, right?
I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you keep saying that, but
I come back. Well, you know, one of the things I come back down to is I come back down to this thought process. If you're an engineer, what you're trying to do is you're trying to build something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not being disrespectful in any way, shape, or means, but you know, before we went digital, marketing was probably more on the fluffier side.
yeah. I mean, a billboard. I mean, how fluffy can you get? I just we'll put this big image out there along the freeway, and then we'll tell the people that paid 30K for it that 3 million people have seen the billboard. I mean, there's no way.
It's a lie.
I don't know. It's not a.
It's a
not
made-up
lie.
number.
It might not be the truth. I don't know, but
It's a made-up number. You know. So
educated guess.
Yeah, and yes, a lie. For me as an engineer, what you're trying to look at is how do I build on solid ground? You know, I need to build solid foundations.
Yeah.
And once I've got those solid foundations in place, then I can start really sort of pushing out and, you know, building interesting, complex structures.
Yeah.
But you need that solid foundation. Where does that come from? That comes from the data. You know, because I can suddenly see, okay, yeah, I've got a market in Asia, or I've got a market in America, or I've not got a market. Why have I not got a market in America? You know, why are we not doing as well in that region compared to other regions?
Right.
You know, that's the data. That comes from the data. You know, you then learn from your customer. Okay, why are we not doing so well in that area, or are we doing so well? Why is one customer buying this product but another customer isn't? You know, back in the day, it was based on, but this customer buys it, this customer doesn't buy it. You know, why? You know, one of my favorite questions is why. But if you have the data, you can suddenly start to ask those questions. And then you can suddenly start to say, okay, yes, we've got a strategy to do this. I look at it from a messaging perspective. I'm not trying to define a company strategy. You know, that's for the company to define. But 90% of the questions I'm asking are all strategic questions. Yeah. You know, so why are you going after that market? Who's your key competition? Yeah. What's your strengths and weaknesses? You know, why is this technology better than another technology?
Are you asking those questions to get to the message, right?
Because I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. Is that your foundation? Then
it's building that foundation again. Yeah. You know, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How are you trying to sort of, you know, do something interesting? You know, where is the story? What's that little gem of truth, or that little gem of excitement that effectively, if I then show it to another engineer, they'll go, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Yeah. You know, and again, it goes back to, you know, if I find it interesting,
there's probably
someone else out there who also will find it interesting. Yeah. But you are really sort of trying to sort of say, okay, we build that foundation, we can then sort of build some of those interesting storylines, which will resonate with the target audience, and then suddenly you've got something that's a bit more value add. Yeah. You know, are you ever going to turn the marketing communications department into a profit center? I think that might be a stretch. I see with the amount of data that's been generated, you know, you sell the data. As an engineer, you know, the engineering side of me battles with the marketeer side of me. So roughly every 6 months, I delete all my cookies and data. Yeah, I know as a marketeer, that's the interesting data that the customer or that I'm wanting to pull from.
Yeah, the marketeer wants
that data, but then I'm suddenly turning around and deleting it, so that I'm a bit of an enigma in the system. Yeah. But that's because I'm an engineer. I know engineers that also do stuff like that, or only use incognito mode. Yeah. You know, because we are very protective of our. We understand the value. Yeah. So I'm not going to give you my data for free.
No, you want something in return.
I want something in return. Yeah. But if you then start selling my data or abusing my data, then the engineer in me feels that's not right. Right. You know. Right. So it that's why I sort of say, I think especially with high tech and industrial clients, there is a bit more of a challenge with that data ownership and turning it into a profit model. Okay. But I definitely think there is options there to make it more profitable.
And how about because I mean, yeah, selling data is a way to, you know, become more profitable as a marketing organization. But how about if you close the gap between sales and marketing? You know, because everything marketing does is, you know, deliver leads, deliver sort of a, you know, easy to pick up for sales to close the deal. And how about if we close that loop, so we can say, you know, this is what we've done in marketing and communications to get this client in, and the client is kind of in a self-service type of environment that we as marketeers created, and sales has oversight, but they're pretty much generating sales through marketing. Would that be something that would be viable in a high-tech and industrial environment?
Again, it goes back to what we were sort of talking about was that sort of 30 years ago marketing or Marcom.
Yeah,
a hated word in my dictionary. For me, it's marketing and communications, not marketing communications.
Yeah, we're on the same page on that one. But that's for a different podcast.
That's a totally different podcast topic, yes. But you turn around and sort of say, again, if you're not a valued part of the organisation, then it's a challenge to sort of break some of those boundaries down. And one of the issues is certainly with larger multinational companies is everything is siloed. Yeah. So the sales team do what the sales team do. The marketing team do what the marketing team do. The business lines do what the business lines do. And a lot of times they're not talking to each other.
Sure. Yeah.
Now it's getting better. I've definitely seen significant improvements in the 30 years. But there is still that sort of siloed mentality. I still remember, one sales manager turning around and sort of saying, we said, oh, we've got this lead coming out of one of the campaigns, and it's potentially a 50K lead.
Yeah.
And the sales manager turned around and says, my guys don't get out of bed for anything less than $1 million.
Yeah. Because they get commission.
They get commission on that. Yeah. But if I get 20 50K leads out of a campaign, then suddenly I've got $1 million worth of business.
Yeah. If you can
effort.
Yeah, and if you can convert those leads into business, actually make that transition from interested prospect to somebody that wants to buy something. I mean, if I compare it to B2C, I always take the mobile phone industry, right? So the Odidos, T-Mobile companies, there's no sales anymore. Everything that they get to the consumer is marketing, right? It's communication. They go on a platform, digital, do their own kind of prospecting for what kind of what kind of plan works for me. Hit the button, pay the fee, receive a phone, receive their mobile plan. There's no sales guy. There's nobody runs into a shop or talks to anybody. Everything is done through a marketing channel.
And it's even easier these days because you have an eSIM, so I don't even have to get the hardware. The only thing I need is the phone.
Right. You need the phone. And so how if we're in on a consumer side, we're already in that stage. How long will it take before we're into this, in B2B, but also in high tech, and we can do that. So I'm not saying we don't need sales, but there's this in every major kind of organization, there's you got your key customers, and then there's this long tail of smaller customers that, it's not a $2 million deal, it's a 50K deal. Do you still need sales guys to put effort in that, or is that something that marketing can solve and communications can solve?
As I said,
and making marketing and communication become a profit center.
There's the industries that are certainly the high tech industrial industry. One of the things that you see often with some of these industries is that they're often very conservative industries. Mm-hmm. Change happens very slowly.
Yeah.
You then have a large multinational organization. Change happens even slower.
Yeah.
If you look at fast moving consumer goods, fast moving, by their nature, they're your mobile phone was out of date after 6 months.
Yes.
So, for some people, not everybody, for some people, they have to have the next model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 2 years is the max, right?
2 years is the max.
Yeah.
Because either the software upgrades aren't been upgraded properly, the funky feature that you wanted no longer exists on your phone. Yeah. So you're looking at that fast moving consumer good market, and that's where you are constantly pushing the edge. Step back about 3 or 4 levels once you get into the sort of the tech and industrial area. For some of the older industrial segments, it's like stepping back into the 1970s in some respects. Mm-hmm. There is a different mindset. There is a different thought process. We don't really change. We know who our customer is.
Yep.
You take someone like ASML. I mean, they've got, half a dozen customers. Mm-hmm. So you go and talk to your customer. You get your sales guys to go and talk to your customer. So why do you need a big website, or why do you need digital channels? Mm-hmm. You just go back. You go old school.
Well, why do you need marketing at all?
Why do you need marketing?
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, you turn around and go, yeah, but there are still competitors out there. There are still people saying, "Oh, our product's better than your product."
There's still marketing.
Someone's going to turn around and sort of say, there is a market, there is an opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have to still reach out to those new players. You're still looking to grow your business. So, there is always an opportunity that you're looking for. So even if you're in, a dominant position within the market, in a very niche market space, you still need to get your message out there. If you're not talking, you're dead.
Yeah. Agree.
So you have to still be talking. You have to still be out there. You have to still be seen. And even if it's bad news, it doesn't really matter. There is no such thing as bad news. There's only news. You have to be able to try and spin the story in a positive way. But if you're not talking, and this is one of the things that we talk about, communicating a downturn. Mm-hmm. It's so critical to be shouting louder and actually spending on during a downturn, because if you're not spending, then you'll be forgotten about, and then when the market starts to turn up again, you've lost.
Yeah.
So you almost have to be shouting more during a downturn, because then people, when the market turns up, are aware of who you are. But that comes back to that sort of thought process of, can marketing, or how is marketing becoming a profit center? Mm-hmm. It's more about getting all those teams talking, getting everybody on the same page, getting a consistent message. If my sales guy's going out and telling a different story from what's on the website, what's the point?
Yeah. You don't see a role for digital explicitly in there that can also in these more traditional industries can make a change in how we communicate, or how we when the market is down, we can use that as an accelerating channel to get our message out.
I was born in the analog era.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get you a pigeon.
Yeah. Carrier pigeons are such great things.
Yeah.
But we used, we only had analog channels back in those days. So the flyer through the post, the junk mail was the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then we went digital, and everybody went, "Oh, the digital was fantastic. Digital was great." So everybody bailed onto digital. And then we were talking about, let's do something interesting. Let's do something crazy. Let's do something weird. Let's do a mail shot. Mm-hmm. Because nobody was doing mail shots anymore.
No.
And I look at my inbox, half the stuff that, Microsoft is wonderful. A lot of people hate.
Wait, what?
I back in the day, we always used to talk about the evil empire.
Yeah.
But Microsoft is wonderful. They have this thing called focused and other in your email system now. So all that junk.
Yeah.
that comes into my inbox is automatically filtered into my other system, and then I go into my other and sort of scan it and then delete everything. Mm-hmm. So you're always fighting the noise, and being able to cut through the noise is a challenge. But if everybody's doing digital, then suddenly doing an analog thing stands out.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, there's no. I don't turn around and sort of say, you know, we have to be fully digital. I turn around and sort of say, for me, you know, coming from the engineering world, you know, I remember one of my close confidants in the world turned around and said, "I'm a mixed signal marketeer."
A mixed signal marketing.
Mixed signal,
Yeah.
which for any engineering company,
Yeah.
you know, or any semiconductor company, it's like, yeah, you've got analog and you've got digital, and if you do both of them, then you're a mixed signal.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm a mixed signal marketeer," and I just loved that, you know, because he was an old school engineer as well, so sort of went into product marketing, and I loved that thought process, because for me, you know, as I say to a lot of my clients as well, it's understanding where your customer lives.
Yeah.
And if your customer lives in an analog world, then you do analog marketing and you do analog communication. If your customer lives in the digital world, then you do digital
So
marketing.
basically, you're saying that the more traditional, well, the marketing models and communication models that we still teach in university and are still valid, right? If analog digital doesn't matter. It's not digital marketing; it's marketing.
It's marketing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for a lot of customers, events are still the biggest time.
Yeah.
That's, you get a chance to talk face to face to potential customers.
Yeah.
You know, they're so vital.
Yeah.
Now, how do we gather the data?
Yeah.
Back in the day, we didn't gather the data, or we took business cards, and then you know, you've got 1,000 business cards. What do you do with it?
Yeah.
You know now you tap your phone or whatever, and you get your contact details into your database, and you say, you know, can we follow up?
Yeah.
So you're still having that mix. So for me, there's no such thing as purely digital and purely traditional or analog. You know, it's both. It's just another channel. We have more options to reach out to our potential customers.
So, you know, so basically, it's, you know, the old rules of marketing and communications are still valid, right? If you do this, you do want to do it right, you need to find some way that combines all these new channels that we have, and create a foundation to kind of build this, understand the why you want to sell or want to push a product into market.
Yeah, I mean, I turn around and I sort of say, you know, look, I've got no official marketing training. Everything I've done is learn on the job.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a scientist, so I also read up stuff as well, you know.
Yeah.
But so it's all self-taught, it's all self-learned.
Yeah.
So, you know, am I using the right model?
Well, it works.
I turn around and sort of say, you know, ignore the model. You know, models are wonderful thing, but ignore the model. Turn around and say, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
You know, and how best can you achieve it? You know, basic fundamental physics. You know, every action has an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to connect to people.
Yeah.
And you have different ways of connecting. You know, and when you're trying to connect to 1 million people, or you're trying to connect to 10,000 people, you're trying to connect to 5 people. You have different ways of connecting with them. You know, if you're trying to connect to the head of the CTO department, or if you're trying to connect to engineers on the ground, you'll have a slightly different approach.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the beauty that digital brings us, is that suddenly we don't have to have a one-size-fits-all approach to marketing. Suddenly we've got one-to-one communication opportunity.
Okay.
But that means you need to know who your customer is. You need to know what they are, what is their communication style.
So we're talking content, and we're talking content strategies. Of course, the latest ridiculous kind of speed that that AI is taking over a lot of work that we're doing in as marketeers, as communication professionals. How is that? How will that change on how we do how we build our communication marketing strategies?
So, I mean, it will have an impact. It will change the way we do things. Things will naturally evolve. I'm still a little bit on the skeptic side. It's come a long way already, but if I turn around and say, certainly from the generative content perspective, I don't want us to get into a position where AI is generating content based on AI generated content, which is then being read by AIs to generate more content.
Yeah. So if there's a flaw, it's a consecutive and consistent flaw.
You get the consistent.
Sure.
Sure. I go back to the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. It still exists.
Yeah.
And
you don't think AI will be able to correct itself or discover these flaws and improve what it has been teaching and learning?
If I turn around and sort of say, at the moment I see AI much more, certainly from a generative perspective, if you've got a lot of content already existing, then AI is pretty good at sort of going down and sort of doing that deep dive research, crunching the data together and producing something that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, if I take something like, school kids having to write a 5,000 word essay on the works of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Well, AI is fantastic for that because it can go in and there's more than enough content on the web to turn around and sort of do that thought process and do that crunch.
Yeah.
For some businesses, certainly within the more niche businesses or the startup businesses, that content doesn't exist. So where does AI start? It doesn't have the content to start with. So we still need to generate new content. If you have to generate new content, AI cannot generate new content at this moment in time. It's generating stuff based on the stuff that it can find. Yeah. So it's a computer program. It's an algorithm. That also means it's formulaic.
Okay.
I've talking to teachers. I know some of my friends are teachers, and there's a few teachers out there that basically turned around and sort of said they have now got used to it, so they actually can now spot AI generated content in their kids' essays.
Sure.
Because it's formulaic. Yeah. Now, will that improve? Of course, that's going to improve. Where were we 5 years ago with generative AI? Where are we today with generative AI? Where are we going to be in 20 years' time with generative AI? Completely different ballpark. But where we are right at this moment in time, I'm still very much on the skeptics bench. I look at the technology that we have, and I turn around and I sort of think.
So give us an example. How do you use it now for your? I mean, do you use AI to create work, or do research, or do get insights, or?
I use it in a limited way, and actually, it's often more just to sort of. If the way I describe it a little bit is, I used to hire junior writers. And because of the area that we work in, I tend to get people who have got a technical background who I can then teach how to write English.
Yeah.
It's easier to get someone with a technical background that I can teach to write English rather than get someone who can write English that I need to then teach them 5 years of technical school.
Yes.
Totally different ballgame.
Yes. That makes sense.
So some of the stuff that what I would say AI is capable of generating now is junior writer level. So it can generate something that is a good basis, or it can get an idea that will take and it will go on the web. And as I say, if there's more than enough data there, it can do some of that to a relatively good degree. Is it polished writing? No. It still needs that editorial touch.
Sure.
To
It still needs the expert.
Expert to turn around and say, and again, it was one of those ones where I sort of said, it's that 1 + 1 = 2 thing. If there's not enough data on the web for it to search, so if it's only searching from 2 papers, then it can only generate content based on 2 papers.
Yeah.
It will then make assumptions that are wrong assumptions.
Yes.
Because it doesn't understand what it's doing.
Yeah.
It understands some of the writing. It might understand some of the laws of writing, but it doesn't understand the content. So it's not able to make that judgment call. And this goes back to where I say, for me, going back to coming from an engineering background and the difference between engineers and marketeers, is that's often what I discovered when I first started working in the industry, is that there's people who are out there who are fantastic writers.
Yeah.
They're fantastic storytellers, but they don't understand the tech. So therefore what they write doesn't resonate with their audience.
Right. Okay.
What AI is doing at the moment is generating content. Is it good content? That's a question mark I have at the moment.
Okay. All right. Cool. So if there's no way of stopping this, right? So it's gonna evolve, and people are gonna use it. What would be according to you, what do you expect to be the worst? Well, maybe not the worst outcome, but what will happen with people that are using AI to get the job done? We talked about it previously, but the idea that I don't remember any phone numbers anymore. I used to have like 50 in my head. I could call anybody I wanted to, because everything is in my phone now. So everything is stored there. I don't need to use that function anymore. So if we start using tools like AI to get our job done, what will happen? Is it something, we talked about critical thinking and creative thinking, but is that in danger?
I think, my personal opinion is, I think critical thinking is in danger. Without sounding like a boring old man.
Balding or
Boring.
Okay, yeah.
Balding as well, but that's a separate issue. Without sounding like, without getting into grumpy old man syndrome here.
Yeah.
I look at some of the thought processes that people have these days. And as an engineer, it just doesn't sit well with me from the perspective that, or a scientist, I like to lift the hood and see what's under the hood and see how the system works and see how and get an understanding of what it's doing.
Yeah.
So when we first started developing websites, I dabbled a little bit in HTML programming.
Yeah.
Just to get an understanding of what HTML programming was. Mm-hmm. I'm not an HTML programmer. Never will be. I left that to professionals to do HTML programming.
Sure.
But again, even when I was in school, we did, COBOL and DOS and things like that, and now we've got Python and things like that. So do I need to become a specialist in Python to become an AI user? No, I don't. And I don't want people to become specialists in Python just to be an AI user. But if you don't look under the box, if you don't lift the lid, how do you know what it is that you've got? So I look at people, I look at website generation these days, and you go online and you basically, you pick a template, you throw in some content, and hey, voila, you've got a website. Yeah. Whereas before, we spent months sort of building websites, oh my God, we need to do it. And then one of the things but I still look today at some people's websites and I say, but where's the content structure? Where's the content thought process? Where's the strategy? What are you trying to actually do with this? And that's not there. There's some content. It's really nice content.
Sure.
But what's it doing? Does it have a purpose?
Yeah.
I turn around and sort of say the same for me, and again, it goes back to my skeptic thought process a little bit. Search engine optimization, wonderful. Except Google doesn't look at that way anymore.
Well, I don't kind of the output Google gives is different.
Yeah, but we
looks at the information the same.
But we were told, you have to have this many you have to have this sort of keyword density. You have to do this. You have to have the keyword in your heading. You have to do that. So there's these bunch of rules that we were basically we had to do, and they're still there, and they're still important. Mm-hmm. But then Google basically turns around and basically ignores most of that because it reads the content and it looks to the content beyond that. So what are your links? Where are your backlinks? Those are more important.
What's relevant?
What's relevant and it's smart enough to turn around and sort of basically read the content and say, actually, this is about this topic, and if it's stuffed
again, everything is getting prefabricated for us. So critical thinking
we're losing it. We're losing it.
That's what we're losing. Right.
It's not necessarily a bad thing to use the tools. Mm-hmm. An engineer. That's for us. Why did we build the wheel? To make things more efficient. Yeah. To make it easier. We didn't have to do it to make our lives easier. Yeah. So you use it as a tool. I have no problem with you using it as a tool. If it suddenly, as I said, goes back to AI-generated content based on AI-generated content that's been read by AI to generate more content, then what's the point? That's just an endless cycle that goes away and happily does. Yeah. But it's a tool that we can use to improve our lives. Then it's important. But you still need to be able to look under the lid and sort of get back to those fundamental basics and say, what are we trying to do? Why are we doing it? Ask those why questions. If we're not asking those why questions, we have lost the plot.
Okay. Looking back on what we talked about, the history and the evolution of marketing communication in high tech and industrial, if things keep evolving the way they are now, are we as marketeers becoming more of a sales communication expert in this industry, or is it, or will we remain on the data side and finding the truth to get a certain product or technology to market in the most efficient and relevant way?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, one of the issues that we have is we need to be able to cut through the noise.
Yeah.
If AI is generating content, it's going to generate a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. So we need to find ways of really picking those gems, those little stories out, and really getting them to cut through. And I think that's where I say, it sort of ties all those things. It goes back to that basic, what are we trying to do with marketing communications?
Right.
We need to build those solid foundations. If we've got those solid foundations, then we can use the data. If we can use the data, then we can find the audience better. We can target the story better. But we still need to find those gems, because otherwise we're just generating more noise.
Right. So the human factors remains important. We still need to convince our audience that we have, the most relevant information for them and kind of curated everything for them.
Yeah, I mean, Google's basically become a content curating tool these days.
Sure. Yeah.
But we still need to remember, it's human to human interaction. Okay. Without human to human interaction, it doesn't matter. It's not business to business. It's not business to consumer.
It's human to human.
It's human to human.
Yep. Right.
For me, things like podcasts are successful. Why? Because it's human to human interaction.
Right.
If we're not doing that, I mean, the whole point of basically the engineer to make our lives more easier and more, is so that we've got time to be ourselves and communicate with each other, and otherwise then you end up with a breakdown of society, So
and that will be for a different podcast then altogether, right?
Hopefully.
Right. Well, thanks a lot. Great insights. Love talking to you. I think we have a couple more topics that we might be able to pick up in the future. But for now, thanks, and talk to you soon.
Pleasure as always.
Stay connected to the Evolving Digital Podcast.